So this is the rear cabin filter add-on thing that I came up with. And I just shot a video that was about 10 minutes long by the time I finished, so I wanted to just cut to the chase and then I'll put the rest of that at the end. You can see it's 3D printed. You'll notice when you look at it, but it looks fine and it's nice and strong. I printed with a big nozzle because it makes much stronger parts and just helps them to print more quickly. I still only get through about 2 of these a day right now, so unless I figure out how to make them faster, it's kind of limiting. But here it is, and if you want to see kind of the guts of this and how it goes on, then stay tuned. Okay, by now we've all seen lots of horror story pictures of rear AC evaporators that have been filled with garbage. Dust and hair and candy wrappers and all sorts of crazy things. So let's take a look at why that is. So this is underneath the second row seat on the driver's side. This is the air inlet for that system. And you can see kind of right here this little semicircle that's peeking in there. It's kind of white. That is the blower motor. And so it's right behind, like if I flex this, it's actually touching the housing of that blower. And that's a centrifugal fan, sometimes called a squirrel cage fan. And that's like a high pressure, you could say high suction type of fan. So there's a lot of air velocity right here. And the rest of this vent really doesn't do anything because the air, has no space to make that turn. Over here on the right side, this is towards the front of the vehicle. If you look closely, there's nothing behind there. There's actually just black plastic. That's actually the air duct from this blower. It goes down into the floor through the evaporator, makes a turn and comes up and gets distributed through the ceiling vents. So this is just for looks. I think it had this weird bubbled out shape to make room for that duct, and they decided just to put vents there to make it look less stupid or something. That's the best I can tell. So with all this high velocity inrush of air right here, it's super easy for anything to get sucked in. And this is right where kids' feet are garbage, and if there's a gap down here, then you're going to get garbage that can there's just a little fence behind that, and it's not much, and trash can probably come up from the floor as well. This is rubber floor, so that's probably a bigger problem on this vehicle than it would be if you had carpet and then a floor mat. So this needs to be protected, and you've seen some people tape some screen on there. That's a good idea, and I think it probably works pretty well. What I decided to do was I came up with a replaceable filter, and so that is this piece here that has a glued-on gasket. I modeled it using a 3D scan of this, so it fits this funny shape. And my goal was to have it installable without having to remove the interior panel, because I know that's kind of a pain. So I'll show you how that goes on in a minute. But it's this piece, and you can see that puts an air gap here, and that allows there to be some flow around this whole filtered surface area before it rushes into that duct, which again is just right in a small location. So that will reduce kind of the average velocity through the filter and make better use of the whole filter. So there's that piece that attaches to the vehicle. Filter element that's polyester filter media, and then a grill just for aesthetics and to protect everything. So the way that attaches is, here's the hardware that comes with it. I designed these little twist-in anchors, and so they go into the vent slot, and then they twist and they lock in that way. And they go in these locations here. all these parts are 3D printed, and then they have all the threaded parts have these brass inserts, which is pretty much standard for anything you need to actually work well, rather than threading into plastic, which is just never a good idea. And then using the 4 longer screws, this base plate gets attached. And once these are in here, they can slide, and so they may need to be repositioned a little bit. And so all this goes together with just a Phillips screwdriver. There's some extra length to these, so you can get them aligned well before you have to snug it down. You got some space to work with. Gotta get these slid into the right spot, so need some finger space there. And this gets snugged down. Just enough to keep it tight and from sliding around. Obviously, eventually you could break something if you snugged it down too much. This is pretty resilient, all these parts. The car itself is pretty resilient, but you know, you don't want to overdo it. So that's not going anywhere. Oops. And then the filter is kind of formed, and the bubbled up side of it goes, I mean, it's the only way I guess it fits into this panel, but it goes here. And what I found is easiest is to insert the screws through the panel and the filter, which is perforated at the corners, and that helps it stay in the right spot when you assemble it. So I'll just stick these through here. And again, this screws into threaded inserts so that it's not going to wear out when you're removing it to check or change the filter. Don't over tighten anything. And that's how it goes. So this is going to be a more expensive option than taping on some screen. You're going to spend at least twice as much as what you'd spend for a roll of Gorilla Tape and some screen, I would guess. But for some people, maybe this is something that you'd like. The fact that it gives you the extra space between the filter and the fan, I think is a benefit. And I think it probably does a better job filtering than just a screen would. Not to mention the fact that you can swap it out. I just didn't want to put tape on there and have sticky gunk left over. So again, this is not filtered. I think personally I'm going to leave it. If you wanted to have maximum protection, there is some amount of air that could kind of flow through there. It's not actually a measurable amount with an anemometer, but you can, if you take a real light piece of paper, you can see that, you know, there's a movement. So you could block this off. I don't know what that would look like. Tape is the only thing that comes to mind, and I don't like that. And again, you want to make sure that you don't have a gap under here, and if you did, you'd want to find a way to fix that. I think the obvious solution for most people would be to just scoot their floor mats right up against that if you've got a gap, and that would do a lot to help protect that. Anyway, I'll have a link along with this video when I post it if you want to check this out. And Just wanted to show how that goes on and kind of explain how things work under there. Alright, thanks.